Standard ways of secular society make you lose your caste and leave you hungry. Okay, that's the intro.
Can you repeat that?
All right. Standard ways of the secular society make you lose your caste and leave you hungry. Okay. Here's a story that'll explain this. But before I tell the story, I have to tell you just a few historical facts so you can understand the story. Now, this story from India, so that's why many of you may not be familiar. But in India, back then they had a caste system, and then in the caste system, I'm not condoning it, I'm not condemning it, I'm just trying to tell a funny story. But you have to know a little bit of the history here. They had a caste system which eventually became quite infamous. But so the top of the caste system are the Brahmins. And Brahmins are folks that are supposed to be very pure, like they wouldn't, they wouldn't eat in the house of someone who wasn't vegetarian, and there were many more requirements, so to maintain their, standards of purity. And and if they did not behave up to these standards, they would lose their caste, they would lose their social position. So, they would cease to be recognized as Brahmins in the society, and that was terrible. So they all tried to keep this purity. And the story goes that there was this Brahmin traveling all day, traveling all night, and he was passing through a village, and he was getting really hungry. The poor fellow was getting really, really hungry, and he was feeling very tempted to go, which was quite customary back then, because most of the Brahmins would keep themselves poor, and they would subsist by living, because they thought that if you possess too much money, it's not the money, but the tendency is if you have too much opulence, you become corrupted. So to maintain the purity, they would beg, and it was normal for Brahmins to go and beg. So they thought of going to one of the houses and beg. However, it was passing through a village of fishermen. These folks were making living by fishing, so that means they weren't awfully too vegetarian. And he was thinking, my God, I can't do that, I lose my caste, But he kept walking, but he was so hungry, he was so hungry, and he said, and eventually said, to hell, I'm so hungry, I just want to eat, to hell with my caste and everything. So he went to one house, he knocked on the door, people opened the door, as it was very customary, not only in India, but all over the world, before the industrialization of the world. When you would knock on somebody's door, people would let you in, and they would, entertain you in many different ways and be extremely polite. Like, for example, in some places where I grew up, it's considered rude to lock the door of your house. And in some places, it's even rude to close the door of your house. It's meant to be open, so anyone can walk in. Anyways, so he was hosted really nicely, and they offered him something to eat, vegetarian, but, still he was eating in an impure place from the current social position. And then when he was finished, he said, well, gee, do you have anything else? And I'm really hungry. And the poor fisherman said, well, I'm sorry, sir, that's all I have. I just offered you everything I have. And then this Brahmin was lamenting that, oh, darn, I lost my caste and I'm still hungry. I lost my caste and I'm still hungry. So to repeat the quote, the standard ways of secular society make you lose your caste and leave you hungry. That is the moral of the story. What are the standard ways of the modern secular society? What are the things, the goals that you're being told by acquiring which that you're going to be happy, that you're going to satiate your hunger? That is the power, prestige, fame, affluence, material possessions, acquisition of matter, and everyone is trying to do this. However, everyone's losing their caste and remaining hungry. You lose your youth, you lose your health, often you lose your relationships, You lose so many things. Trying to acquire these things, trying to satiate your hunger, and at the end you're still hungry. Like there's a cliche. I mean, it's such a cliche. Sometimes you don't want to repeat it, but it's interesting. Though it's a cliche, still it's very accurate for most of the people. The money can't buy happiness. That is really so. It's not just a saying. And I'll tell you a quick story. Another quick story of this is a true story of a fellow. This happened in Europe where I grew up. There was this fellow who was very attracted to a beautiful young girl, and the girl told him that he could have her, he could enjoy her, if he could hit her belly button with a golden coin.
What's that?
So there was a certain distance between them, and she was doing the belly dance. And he was supposed to hit the belly button with the coin. And for every missed coin, she would keep it. You can imagine. The guy was tossing coins left and right. Lost a bunch of coins and eventually hit the belly button. But at that time, I was so frustrated and, after all, spent so much money. I mean, a golden coin, it's not a quarter. So he so-called enjoyed her, but, he wasn't satisfied. So it was just like this Brahmin ended up remaining hungry and losing all of his money. He was still hungry. Because these things aren't that satisfy one. In the materialistic consciousness or in the materialistic society, we're constantly told. I mean, the whole educational system, the commercials out there, your own parents, even perhaps your own minds, will tell you, here's the roadmap to satisfaction. Here's a roadmap to your well-being, and everyone's following it. And it's very interesting that these roadmaps do not lead to this place. And somehow or other, everyone knows this, but somehow or other, no one has the guts to perhaps look at some alternative maps. Oh, a few. Everyone's just like this Brahmin. I mean, it's elusive, Satisfaction by these means are very elusive. Elusive means you just can't grab it, It's like this kind of happiness makes you. It always gives you this impression that it's just around the corner. It's just around the corner. You just do this one more thing, and you'll get it. And you do it. And then it still goes away, 20 feet. And it tells you, okay, now you did everything great, but that one little thing you have to adjust, and then you do that one more little thing. Like, I'll give you an example. You go to a store, and you take a vow. You vow before God, before country, before parents, I'm not going to spend more than this much, And then you go to the store, and the thing costs just slightly a bit over that. And then, whatever, I'll pay that little more, And then you made this mental decision. You pick up the item, and then you turn the box, and you read the specifications of the thing. And then you realize that, gee, it doesn't have that one feature, And then you look for the other items, similar items on the shelf. Then you find the other similar item, but, different model. It's got all the features you want, but this time the price is further up. And this is just one example. It's everything like this. Every physical satisfaction that you seek, from eating, anything, any satisfaction that's due to the contact of the senses with the sense objects. This is materialistic happiness. And what it does, it leaves you hungry and you lose your caste. That's what it does. I mean, just look around, Look around. A few weeks ago, I read an article. Star-studded rehab. Star started rehab, And then they gave a list of some 80-some celebrities, These are the idols, these are the deities for most of the folks that you meet. Maybe even some of you. Most of people think, wait, if I could just be like her or like